नमस्कार, आर्यन होम्योपैथिक एकेडमी इंडिया में आपका स्वागत है। मैं हूं डॉक्टर आर्यन। हैनीमैन की लाइफ और उनके वर्क की श्रृंखला को आइए आगे बढ़ाएं। After 5 years of restless wandering, Hahnemann had a comparatively set life in a bigger city called Dresden, the capital, after staying in the small country town in 1785. This was mainly due to broadening of his medical knowledge and his field of mental work, the continuation and expansion of his activities as an author, and possibly the gratification of his scientific inclination and the growth of his family. It was impossible for a young countryman to expect the rapid growth of private practice with moderate to good income. Neither could Hahnemann have had expected in a short time to become a well-known or important personage in this capital circle. Yet, Dr. Wagner, the medical officer of health, allowed him to work with him in his forensic medicine, and in addition to work as a locum for the medical officer who goes on leave. This kind of medical work appears to have been more satisfactory to Hahnemann than his own private practice. We must marvel at the unusual capacity for work, at the energy, the industry and zeal with which Hahnemann at the age of 30 to 34 years accomplished the task of publishing more than 2,200 printed pages, including translations, original work, essays during this period at Dresden, while doing locum of duty of medical officer with a large patient care. The Dresden time was only a prelude to Hahnemann's individual work in the years to come. For here, it became evident to him insufficiency of medical science and the end of therapeutic method of those days which he started and with undaunted energy and eloquence of speech. His work on arsenic poisoning is an example during this period. In Dresden, his family was increased to 5 persons: son Frederick, another daughter Wilhelmine, beside elder daughter Henriette, husband and wife. Leipzig was the intellectual and educational center for the whole of cultured Europe, with university and book-selling trade. This induced Hahnemann to move to Leipzig from Dresden at the end of September in the year 1789, where he lived until summer of 1792. After a year, he shifted to a small place called Ridge, a suburb of Leipzig, with no practice, living almost entirely on literary work. He had to struggle against poverty. However, his increased activity as a writer and scholar, his literary work brought Hahnemann not only to the notice of the publishers, but distinguished societies elected him as the honorary member such as Leipzig Economical Society and Academy of Science of the Electorate of Mainz. Here Hahnemann wrote Friends of Health and also the most important and comprehensive translation of Quinine's treatise on materia medica. Quinine's materia medica translation laid down the first milestone on the road of development of the new method of treatment, of which Hahnemann was the originator. In the question of medicinal effect of Peruvian bark, Cinchona, Quinine defended the old opinion of the efficacy of this remedy through its tonic effect on the stomach and because of its bitterness. Hahnemann attacked this opinion vigorously in his note. He opined that by combining the stronger bitters and the strongest astringent, then this bark do not have the property of curing malarial fever. In translating Quinine's materia medica, Hahnemann became indignant over the affected theoretical explanation of antipyretic power of Cinchona bark, which celebrated teacher was asserting. Hahnemann therefore resolved to ascertain by the natural method of experimenting, wherein lay the power of Cinchona bark to allay intermittent fever. He first made the experiment on himself as a healthy individual. He took an ounce of cinchona, and on the same day he was attacked with cold and fever, similar to the fever of the marsh. It was not a simple coincidence. Hahnemann here sensed a law which taught him to recognize that in the effect that a substance has on a healthy organism is to be found its curative power of for similar disease symptom, because he could not doubt that here prevailed more than a simple coincidence. In Hahnemann's own word, he writes, and I quote, I took for several days as an experiment 4 grams of good cinchona twice daily. My feet and fingertips, etc., at first became cold. I became languid and drowsy. Then my heart began to palpitate. My pulse became hard and quick. An intolerable anxiety and trembling, but without any rigors, prostrated in all limbs. Then pulsation in the head, redness of the cheek, thirst, briefly all symptoms usually associated with intermittent fever appeared in succession and yet without the rigors. To sum up, all those symptoms which to me are typical of intermittent fever, and the stupefaction of the sensation, a kind of rigidity of all joints, but above all the numbness, disagreeable sensation which seemed to have its seat in the periosteum over all the bones of the body, all made their appearance. This paroxysm lasted from 2 to 3 hours every time and recurred when I repeated the dose and not otherwise. I discontinued the medicine and I was once more in good health. Hahnemann therefore remarked, in a position to Quinine, if the author had detected that the bark had the power of producing artificial antagonistic fever, certainly he would not have held due firmly to his mode of explanation. Hahnemann spoke out very clearly. Peruvian bark, which is used as a remedy for intermittent fever, acts because it can produce symptoms similar to those of intermittent fever in healthy people. From the above exposition, it becomes irrefutably evident that Hahnemann was dissatisfied with the old method of treatment and the attempted explanation of this belief. He therefore sought for a more reliable method of treatment and clearer explanation of the usefulness of a drug. For this purpose, he made experiments on himself. He began to prove medicine on his own person, treading therefore with forethought an experimental path pointed out by nature. He acted inductively. From that he deducted, partly by intuition and partly by logical reasoning, that a substance which produces a form of fever resolves the type of intermittent fever. If in conclusion we review the period of time which came to an end his sojourn in Leipzig, we must describe his development as under. Hahnemann, the physician, recognized more and more the complete inefficiency and unreliability of the science of treatment of his day. He expressed this conviction repeatedly and unhesitatingly and fiercely attacked the evil of bloodletting. Therefore, he withdrew more and more from medical practice, which gave him no inward satisfaction and accorded him no substantial profit for himself and his growing family. Further, he sought further knowledge and thus penetrated into the science of chemistry, that helpful adjunct of medicine. Therefore, there is no wonder that in the year 1793 he was already mentioned in Quirrell Annals as the famous analytical chemist. At the same time, his zeal for investigation led him to read the appropriate literature of foreign countries, especially of English and French, which offered him monetary remuneration as well as information. The practical physician became a translator and an author. As such, his fame augmented. He became known and acknowledged in ever wider circle, for he did not merely translate it, but added to the original information each time by personally working through the material. Hahnemann remained, however, in spite of these works, in close touch with his chief profession, namely medicine, to which he became more strongly and closely attached with the lapse of years. So, it is only outwardly that he appeared to be estranged from the art of healing. In reality, the whole of this period was only a continuation of his years of study and a further, more stern and serious preparation toward the special life task for years still to come. Translation work led him to testing the effect of remedies on himself and thereby the first idea, his subsequent law of stimulus. इस एपिसोड में इतना ही। अगले एपिसोड में हैनीमैन और उसकी लाइफ के बारे में हम और कुछ बोलेंगे। धन्यवाद।